All right. Oh, well, Matthew, very excited to be chatting with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Look,
Great to meet you both.
Slotherhouse, far out, man. Like, people tend to have really strong reactions to these sort of movies, one way or the other, I guess. How have you found the reception to be? Do most people get it?
it's it was interesting. I mean, it's funny. You make a film and for 2 years, it's like it's in such a bubble. Not a lot of people are seeing it. Like your significant other or somebody who's like, people close to you, you're maybe talking to them about it, but the movie is just is not seen, so you have no, at some point you're just like, I don't even know like how people are going to react, if people are going to get it. And I was like kind of shocked when it first came out. We kind of got this like wave of like positivity that was
Mm-hmm.
so exciting, because it's just like encouraging, if anything else, because you're like, at some point you're like, I just don't know, like we worked really hard on this and we tried to make the best movie, but at some point you're like, we got to just let go and see what happens. um, and we, at the start, it was like we got some really fun, positive, exciting kind of reviews and articles and whatnot. And things have sort of balanced since, which again, as you brought up, it's like when you make a movie like this, you sort of know people are gonna love it or like really hate it. And I've sort of seen that. It's like rarely people are like, like, I don't know, it's forgettable. People are either like, oh my gosh, like this is so much fun. We watch it with a group of friends and blah blah blah. Or people say, that cinema is dying, and it's our fault.
Well,
So it's
I was in
it's like, oh man, I hope we don't do that, because movies are important. But I do get, it's not a movie for everybody, and like that's okay. That's what's great about genre. It's like the people that love it will hopefully like champion it and try to show their friends, and
I was in Cannes when I think I was at the Raven banner stand. Does that sound right? Where I saw the poster and the teaser for it.
oh really, oh
And
my
I was
gosh.
immediately like, yes. Like I was there with my two colleagues from work, and they kind of they we were like 20 seconds in where they were like, this is your kind of movie.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're definitely
yeah,
talking to the right people here. This is our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, like, to be honest, like I wouldn't have thought that I would ever make this movie. I love creature feature, animal attack stuff, but it wasn't sort of on my radar of what I wanted to kind of try to make next. And probably similar to you, it's like I saw the title of the movie and I was like, all right, like I'm intrigued. I want to know more. And definitely in terms of just like the tone of the movie, we hope if people look at the title and see any image from the movie, we kind of hope people are like down for the cause. It's like we're trying to embrace the ridiculousness of this type of a film. And we hope if you're getting ready to sit and watch a movie called Slotherhouse, like you're sort of in that mindset to begin with.
Yeah, yeah.
And some people are, some people aren't, and that's okay.
So, where does the conception come from? Like, I imagine it's 10 beers deep. It's a conversation. Like, imagine
Oh,
if,
jeez. I
how
mean,
does it
I
all come
know
together?
I got brought in, like the script was written, money was raised. I was pretty lucky where it's just like, hey, will you pitch on this project? But I know the writer Brad Fowler. I think he's, been, an actor. He's an actor. He's a writer, and I think he's just kind of was sick and tired of the grind of trying to get projects off the ground. So the story that I know is that he and a friend in Florida, I think, as you said, probably had 10 beers and were like, "How the hell do you get a movie made? It seems like everything that's being made is just the dumbest idea you could think of." And then I think Brad was like, okay, what's the dumbest movie I could think of? And uh, sloths are popular creatures in the world today in pop culture. So, I gotta say, when they, I kind of read this story and heard, the concept, I was kind of shocked that it didn't exist already. Just because of, obviously there's been a wave of these sort of B movie animal attack silly concept films, and I was kind of shocked that it hadn't been made yet. So I think it stemmed from like, let's see if this dumb idea could get made, to we had a whole team of people and we were out in Serbia filming for, we were out there for like 3 months. So it was funny, like being out there and finally getting into production, being like, wow, it's happening. Like, we're making a movie called Slotherhouse.
I mean, how do
fun.
the actors react? You get these people on board, like, do they get it off the bat? Or I can't imagine being an actor going, how the hell am I supposed to play this?
I think we got really lucky because we didn't have any rehearsal time. Where this is a much bigger movie for me, but in the scheme of things, it was still, a small budget movie. So a lot of our actors, so we filmed in Serbia. A good chunk of our actors came from the UK. We had a couple local Belgrade actors and a couple from the States. But like, the main kind of the principals were from the UK, and they probably, I think they came with like a couple days before we started filming, so we didn't get to do like a sit down table read or anything. But what I tried to express to them was just like how I feel horror comedies work best is like, you have a ridiculous, ludicrous concept, and everybody within the movie is taking it seriously. Like, the stakes need to feel real, as silly as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And our actors, I thought just did a really great job. They took it seriously, and a lot of them come from like, theater training and are like really talented, gifted actors. And what was great was like, they were game to be a part of such a silly story. But I think they really brought, drama to it, and like an acting skill set that, sometimes these movies don't tend to have. So again, we didn't have a ton of rehearsal time, but I think we got lucky in the sense that I think everybody kind of knew what movie it was that we were making, which is sort of the advice I've been given, is like and stories, and whatever sort of like cautionary tales, is like the hardest thing is to make sure everyone's making the same movie. But I think, I don't know, it's like the ridiculousness was on the page. So for me, I was just like, guys, we want this silly concept to feel grounded. So I think in order to achieve that, it comes through with the acting and the relationships between the characters. And and I think our actors, again, without a lot of rehearsal, it's like none of them really knew each other or worked with each other before. But I know when they came to Serbia and we were freaking out about pre-production stuff, they all kind of got a day or two to like go shopping and go out to eat and hang out. So they kind of came to day one on set like friends, and they sort of did a lot of work for me, where it was like they spent time together and kind of got to know each other, even in a concentrated time. But it was great because they seemed to like kind of instantly hit it off, just as like performers and friends and being a part of this weird movie. So that was like a huge relief. Like, everybody was just like super cool and down and like excited to be a part of a movie that they hope will like get to be, kind of a weird a weird B movie that, people will revisit, every October.
What struck me about it, you mentioned playing it straight, which is obviously what made it work so well, but also you made it straight. Like, I was legitimately struck by how good looking this film is. Like, it is a really smart, savvy looking slasher. Of course, you've got the intentionally stupid premise, but what was the conversation about how this should look?
I mean, I like, again, kind of talking on that first question about reactions. Like, some people have been like, these movies should look like shit. They should look like people have no idea what they're doing. And it's like, I don't know how many chances I'm going to get to make movies. So like if I get a chance, I want to do a good job. Like I want it to look really good. I love, like, my favorite part of making films beyond, like, post-production is probably number one, but like designing the movie in terms of the production design and your shot selection and trying to kind of have rules for when the camera moves or what, what we do with the camera. Like that stuff is, I love that stuff. I get really excited when you watch a movie and like it's just like there's clear intention behind what you're seeing. So it's like that excites me immensely. So that was like, what I love that part of the process. And working with the DP, Mark David, who is like a very seasoned DP. He's shot so many movies and he's a director himself. It was really fun to kind of work with him and try to, develop a language for the movie. Sort of the simple like explanation that we sort of had was like, we want sort of the first half of the movie to feel like a Hollywood studio like comedy. Like it's like kind of, the colors are a little more saturated, it's brighter, the whites are really popping, and then we sort of transition into a horror movie. And we looked a lot at like Hereditary in terms of just like color palette and kind of shot selection, and specifically like the moonlight color. Hereditary, it's like that final sequence, it's like this really nice like silver type of moonlight with like kind of a little bit of green in it. So yeah, we kind of looked at those, like, let's have a studio comedy that turns into a horror movie, and try to make it look good, because like, I don't know, I love movies that care about that stuff. And when we had a great production designer, Nikola Burchek, who's just like, he's like a top designer in Serbia, and he's just like, him and his team were awesome.
When we talk to Ari Aster, we'll have to tell him that he influenced Slotherhouse.
I mean, I think everybody wants to make Ari Aster movies who's making like, trying to break into horror these days. But yeah, I mean, he's the best. I can't wait to see what he does next.
As far as animals that lend themselves well to puppetry, sloth have got to be the greatest. Like, they are made to be puppets. Did you go through various designs or anything like that? Did you have versions of it? Because the one you've landed on is fantastic.
We like didn't have a ton of time to develop the puppetry. So, I think from the start, it starts with like reference images and stuff, and not just images of sloths online and whatnot, but like looking at popular memes and all that stuff. That's like, we also very much knew like we wanted Alpha to be incredibly cute, and we all kind of agreed that the sloth you see in the film, which is a three-toed sloth, like those seem to be kind of the cutest. Mm-hmm. They just have kind of the most like distinct facial features, and we were all kind of quickly in agreement like that the three-toed sloth, because of the face, the fur, and also like the three claws, like that was the type of sloth we wanted to go with. And then, it was working with Creature Effects, who are based in LA, who did the design, who are super talented puppeteers and manufacturers, like really just going, back and forth with photographs. And we went to like a sanctuary in Los Angeles and like met a couple sloths and got to see how they move, which was exciting. And they truly don't do anything. So it was like, oh wow. Like we were there for like 3 or 4 hours and they didn't move. And it was like, okay, like kind of hoping we'd get an idea of like how the puppet can move, but there's enough like video footage and stuff.
Because I kind of got the impression, and I could be completely off, but that he's a mix between the dirty old man from anime kind of cartoons like Wicked City and stuff like that, and like Mac from Mac and Me.
Oh, little bit of Gizmo
Like
from Gremlins in there too.
like especially in like that. There's the great scene where they're playing dodgeball, and he's like Tiff Stevenson is kind of holding him, and he's got but he's blowing the whistle.
Oh yeah,
he's got the hat on and everything.
I mean, it's like the early conversations we wanted the puppet to look real, but we also knew it's only going to look so real. Like, no, there's never going to be a moment where people are like, is that a real sloth? It's like, so we wanted to get sort of the size correct, the weight correct, the hair correct. And then, we're trying to embrace the fact that this is a puppet. So, the actors are all going to treat Alpha as if she's a real sloth, but the audience, I think it's.
I did at the start of the film when he's reaching for the leaf and then gets. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's the first gets.
You thought it was a real sloth
into the lake, until he crawls out, he kind of crawls out of the thing. I was like, is that a real?
Oh, good. That's
I thought it was
Whereas I was thinking, is that Christoph Waltz?
But it is the thing. At some point, it's like, we spent so much time with this puppet. You're like, I don't know how anybody is going to react to this. Because we again, speaking to kind of like, didn't have a ton of prep time and stuff. It's like, we didn't have our sloth on site in Serbia with us, like, until a couple days before filming. And the sloth wasn't fully ready. So, like, the first time we saw Alpha on camera, like, we didn't even get to do camera tests and stuff, which, like, we all wanted to do, but it's just timing and money and all that stuff. Like, when you're making a smaller budget movie, it's just like everything goes wrong. But so the first day we've shot with the puppet was when Alpha is, not to give anything away, but it's in the trailer, but Alpha drives a car. So the first time we see Alpha on the monitor is like pulling her hands up and being behind a wheel. And we're all looking at each other being like, does this work? Like, it was like, we were all laughing. So we were like, that has to be positive. Like, and once you get like the wind blowing and her hair's flowing back, it's like, I think it's working. We're here. We have to film it.
That's a good bench level to set though. Like, start off there and then,
it was, it was like, might as well start off with kind of the most ridiculous, like, moment in the movie. I feel like I think all the crew, like, all of the crew was like people that hadn't read the script or didn't fully know what we were making were cracking up, and it was like, okay, they're either laughing at us or they're they're having fun.
And I've heard, like, a lot of the time when actresses shoot sex scenes, they're always right at the start of the production and it's always super awkward. But I think, like that, you want to get that stuff out of the way first, because if that doesn't work, then the rest of the film's not going to work. So it's good to start
completely. Oh yeah. If no one was laughing and we were all just like, oh man, we would have had to pivot. And we definitely had that conversation, sort of having the Jaws conversation of like, okay, if this really doesn't work, are we going to try to do the thing where we don't see Alpha? And none of us wanted that. It was like, this is the main character, as much as Emily is sort of at the heart of the movie. It's like Alpha is, we don't want to hide Alpha throughout this movie. It's like, if this movie is titled Slotherhouse and it is about a sloth that attacks these people, like, we have to show her, like,
absolutely,
we have to, or else people are going to hate us. And I wouldn't want to watch that movie if it's just, it saves it to the last 20 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So luckily, I mean, I think, the designers at Creature Effects, they did a great job.
Well, you 100% pulled it off, according to us. Like, we loved it.
Thank you so much.
In the last few months, we've spoken to the directors of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and The Mean One,
Amazing.
And they both said that they intend to make more of these movies. What about you? Is this a wave that you're willing to ride?
I mean, I would love to be able to make another one. I mean, I think I learned so much on this. Filmmaking in general,
Yeah.
like I had made one film before this, and it was like a very like self-financed, like convince friends to come and shoot this thing for 13 days type of movie. And this was a much bigger um challenge for me. And yeah, I learned a ton, and the puppeteering is something like I really loved, and loved working with the puppeteers on site, and would love to just find ways to push it more,
Well, capybaras are really popular right now, so.
yeah. um Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I would love to, get the chance to, because of course, like I don't know if the directors of those films you just spoke about it mention it, but like you finish a movie and like there's a very long list of things you wish you did differently, or it's just like, oh, next time I'm going to do this. And so it's like, yeah, to be able to get to work in that same world again and try to improve on it, and try, and Alpha, I think, is like a pretty awesome character, and I would love to help continue her story and see where she goes next, and try to you know just push it more. I would love to see like what other crazy stuff we could do, because I think, again, I hadn't had the puppeteer experience, so um it's we had wonderful puppeteers with us, again, the guys from Creature Effects, and then Greg Ballora, who's like a very seasoned puppeteer. I would love to just be able to work with them further and be like, what can we do with this thing? Like, like,
I mean,
because a lot of the time we were sort of figuring out movements like on the day, and you're limited because of the size of the puppet and whatnot. So it's like, I would just love to be able to, like, expand on Alpha's capabilities,
Mhm.
and figure out ways to like practically pull it off on camera.
well, like I feel like you've kind of set it up, because the end of the film, with that, once again, it's a spoiler, but
Mhm.
Alpha's back in the jungle, and you kind of, you tee it up with the girl taking a selfie with him and stuff, with her, sorry. And so for me, it's a perfect lead into like the Die Hard 2
Yeah,
Slotherhouse.
yeah.
As
I
how can the
mean,
same damn thing happen to the same damn sloth?
yeah.
It's the
I mean,
tagline right there.
I I know it's like, I know what Katie Lanigan and Brad Fowler, they kind of created the film, and Brad wrote it, and Katie is one of the producers, and kind of like creatively was a big part of it. Like, the intention is for Alpha to be able to go on and be and have more films. Like, it's so hard to get movies made, so I hope this movie gets kind of enough traction behind it where it's like we get the chance to do another one, because I know, we would all be super excited for that opportunity,
I
I
mean,
because
hope
I
so
know,
too.
like, the Winnie the Pooh, like I'm excited to see that second one,
Oh
like
yeah.
especially just like bigger, like the makeup from that one image I saw, like it looks really good. Like,
but this time with
I'm
less
sure he
pants.
learned so much. What's that?
But this time with less pants.
Yeah,
Winnie the
yeah,
Pooh
of
doesn't wear
course.
pants.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure when you guys spoke to that director, it's like, I'm sure he learned so much,
Yeah.
on that first one, and it's like, yeah, to be able to, you're not necessarily like redoing what you did, but it's just like you hopefully have a bit of a fan base who's like excited to see this new one. And the hardest thing is getting your movie seen. So it's like, if you can make a film that already has a bit of a, some fans behind it, it's like that's so exciting.
Absolutely. Before we wrap this up, just want to quickly ask you, what are the type of movies that inspired you to become a filmmaker? Like, what really
Yeah.
wet the whistle for you?
Um, I mean, it's funny, like horror has always been a huge a huge love, in terms of like whenever I'm like, okay, it's like, it's 6 p.m., 7 p.m., it's time to put on a movie, like horror thrillers are kind of always at the top. But in terms of like filmmaking, for me, Paul Thomas Anderson and Wes Anderson are like kind of the guys.
Yeah, right.
For me, like I still, I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson is my favorite filmmaker by far. The Master is sort of like the most mysterious movie that I don't understand. I've seen it so many times. I watch it a couple times a year, and there's always something new in it. I love how he tells these, like, they're not very plotty movies. They're very character driven, and they're so like hypnotizing. And his performances are always like, the performances he gets are always like so stunning. He just has, like, and I know his big influences are like Robert Altman and Hal Ashby, and like those, I love those filmmakers as well. Wes Anderson, it's like I remember seeing like Bottle Rocket and Rushmore for the first time, and I love, I'll continue to see his films, and I do love the newer stuff, but like there's nothing better than Rushmore. Like,
we had that conversation last week on the show. Yeah,
it's just a perfect. It's a perfect movie. The performances are so good. Like Jason Schwartzman is like unbelievable. Bill Murray is like
was it
just
our
one
colleague
of his best.
Our colleague last week suggested that it was when Owen Wilson dropped off as a co-writer that everything sort of unraveled a little bit.
I mean,
but now that you've brought this up, I would love to see Wes Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson remake each other's films. Like, I want to see Paul Thomas Anderson's Rushmore, and I want to see Wes Anderson's Magnolia.
Oh my God, yeah. I feel like whenever I'm, writing or trying to create a new thing, I'm always ripping off Magnolia, which I gotta stop doing, because there's only one Magnolia. Other than, have you ever seen Shortcuts by Robert
Altman?
My God,
that's one of my favorite films of all time.
Mine as well. And that, there's, I don't know. It's like I'm sort of trying to figure out, like, can you make a movie like that that's genre? Can you make a Bottle Rocket or Rushmore that has like horror elements to it? And I really want to try. I'm like, that's
all you've got to do is cast Lyle Lovett.
Like.
Lyle Lovett.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. He's so good. He's so good in The Player. I mean, those, it's like those are the movies that I just like, I could go back to every few months. And I see something new, and the filmmaking is always so impressive. And I love, reading about the making of Robert Altman movies and Paul Thomas Anderson movies. And they just like, and whenever I'm maybe feeling a little down about movies for whatever reason, it's like I can put something, I can put on Images or Shortcuts or The Player, or and you're just like, damn, movies can do some pretty amazing things.
And wasn't Paul Thomas Anderson Altman's backup director for Prairie Home Companion?
Which I actually have not seen that movie, which is like horrible of me, but I need to. But yeah, he's like, I mean, he didn't have to do that. I don't think he's the first AD, but he was like a assistant director or something. I don't know if part of it was like in case he got a little too sick or something, but like Paul Thomas Anderson was like the top of his game. And he took the time to go and continue to learn under, his kind of the guy he looked up to most. And like, that's so cool.
Oh my goodness. Well,
those guys, and there's a million other filmmakers that like kind of more recent or rather like maybe younger filmmakers, of course, like Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, the Safdie brothers, those guys, their movies are so unique. Greta Gerwig's, like, there's so much good stuff.
Absolutely. Your passion is clear. Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks so much for making time to have a chat with us. Slotherhouse is so
Thank
much
you for
fun, and
being so late.
everyone we listen should go and get your hands on this movie. Watch it; it is fantastic. It looks
If you
great.
can watch
it's
it
funny.
with friends too, it's a good friend. And from what I've read on Letterboxd, friends, not condoning alcohol, but if you have like, I guess if you have drinks, it can it can be fun. But yeah, it's like the goal with the movie was to just make a really fun, silly, entertaining, like all the way through.
Mission accomplished, mate.
Movie.
Mission accomplished.
That was the goal. So thank you so much. That means a lot.
Awesome. Well, we'll sign off here. Take care of yourself. We look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much.
We're all gonna die slow, horrible deaths at the hands of an adorable little killing machine.
Maybe you were thinking about running.
And have every sister turn on me my senior year?
Might be surprised. You just need something that sets you apart.
The new house mascot. I will be running for president.
You're so clipped.
People are really excited about Alpha. And you.
Get rid of the sloth.
I'm sorry, but it's you or me.
People are just disappearing.
He's a sloth. She can't plan that.
What do you even know about those things?
I know that they're slow.
Slow? Did she look slow to you? Did you see the look in her eye?
She's like a cute Chucky.
Bella kiss,